Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode, edition, whatever you want to call it, of the GD Report. I'm G.
And I'm D. How's it going to you, man?
It's going great, man. It's a wonderful day here in the Rockies. Spring is getting ready to spring, and we're going to have a great weekend. It's going to be fantastic. And
Don't buy into the propaganda, folks. Beautiful springtime in the Rockies means it snowed yesterday.
Yeah, it did snow yesterday. We got 2 inches. The day before that, we got 6 inches. Now, here's the thing. This time of year in Colorado, and I want to say this too much because more people move up here, and we don't need any more people. Stay in Texas, folks. Vote blue. But the 6-inch snow we got, it was heavy and wet, right? It barely stuck on the sidewalk and didn't stick on the roads. So it just hit the grass. Yesterday's snow was 2 inches. Today we have no snow. There's no snow anywhere to be found. It's all melted. Today we were in the low 50s. Gorgeous day out, a little overcast, but not too bad. Weather was almost perfect. Wow. Fantastic day. Speaking of fantastic, we have a fantastic show lined up for you tonight. Got some really great topics. We're going to start by going to my mother-in-law's home state, as Harry Truman would say, the great state of Missouri. Tell me what's going on there, Dean.
Well, it is the show me state, and they are showing us who they are. Missouri, right. You mentioned one of my favorite presidents, Harry S. Truman. Missouri used to have a pretty long-standing Democrat lean to it. There was always some Republicans, but as we talked about on the last episode that we did, there's not always a guarantee that a state is going to remain the political persuasion that it currently is. So yeah. You see states that trend. California used to have a lot more Republicans get elected statewide. Now it's a bastion of Democratic politics. Yep. Texas for a long time was Democratic. And then now for the last 30 or 40 years, it's been Republican. And now it's starting to shift back Democratic. Yep. And so you see those ebbs and flows with the political process. Missouri, though, has been trending Republican for quite a while. Right. The last few presidential elections, Republicans have carried it. Their last U.S. senator that was a Democrat was Claire McCaskill, and right. she lost her election 2 years ago to I think it's in 2018 to Josh Hawley.
Yep.
Who has made a name for himself as being one of the proud supporters of the January 6th insurrection, being one of the only U.S. senator to vote against the COVID-19 hate crimes law. It was to protect Asian Americans against hate crimes,
right,
and classify the crimes against them as hate crimes so that there can be more harsh punishments. So he beat her, but they've had a few statewide wins here or there. Now their senior senator, Mr. Roy Blunt from Springfield, Missouri, has decided he is not going to run for re-election. And that's part of a big group of Republicans who've decided next time not to run for re-election, including Richard Burr from North Carolina, Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, Richard Shelby from Alabama. We still haven't heard from Chuck Grassley in Iowa, but there's talk that he may not run again. Right. And then there's also a seat in Ohio where who's not running in Ohio? I'm drawing a blank here. Sherrod Brown's the Democrat, and the Republican is, I want to say DeWine, but he's the governor.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Well, between the two of us, we ought to be able to.
Right.
We ought to be able to figure that one out.
Oh, Steve Stivers.
No, that's not right.
That's the House guy. Oh,
I'm talking about the Senate. We have to get on our researcher.
Right.
But anyway, so this open seat in in Missouri is drawing a lot of interest. Rob Portman, we should have known that.
Oh, Rob Portman. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a former budget director under George W. Bush. And most of these, even including Richard Shelby in Alabama, of the folks who aren't running, are known as more traditionalist, institutionalist when it comes to the Senate, a little bit more of a moderate streak. In the past, they've been open to more bipartisanship. Under Trump, it wasn't really easy for them to do that.
Right.
And so a lot of them, rather than weather a primary, because I think probably every single one of those would have probably been primaried.
Yep.
Anyway, rather than face a primary, they just decided to retire. But in Missouri, we've got an open seat now, so that's obviously every time there's an open seat, it draws a lot of interest.
Yep.
And so we've got a couple of early favorites on the Republican side. Former Governor Eric Greitens.
Right. Yeah. I want to vote for him.
Yeah, he's he's got everything a Republican candidate wants and needs. He's a former.
Wait. You mean a Republican family values party?
Well, I'm getting to that. He's a former Navy SEAL.
Check.
He was he's actually a minority group. He was the first Jewish governor.
Check.
Of the state of Missouri. He big family values guy.
Check.
Kind of.
Wait
a second. Yeah, he actually had to resign. He was elected in 2016, but he actually had to resign. I believe it was official in 2018 when he had to resign because he was indicted by a St. Louis grand jury where he basically had an affair on his wife and then tried to extort the woman that he had an affair with, blackmailed her with inappropriate, took nude photographs of her, and resigned in disgrace.
But that was 2 years ago, man. Those people in Missouri, they can't think that long.
Well, now he's trying to say he's the Trumpiest of the Trumpists. So
right. And we should trademark that.
Yeah, but he's trying to get Trump's endorsement and says that he supports Trump, and Trump needs him, even though Trump's not president anymore. I don't know, newsflash to the right wing there, but Trump needs him in DC, and so he's running. And then we're also getting word today that another old friend of the GD report is considering a run. And that would be Mark McClosky. And if you don't remember that name, you'll definitely remember the image when there was a Black Lives Matter protest in St. Louis. And Mr. McClosky and his wife proceeded to go outside their home with automatic weapons to defend their home.
AKs, weren't it? Wasn't it AK-47s?
Yeah, it was either that or an AR-15. I mean, it was an assault rifle, one way or the other.
Right. Because all these black people walking down the street, we're just going to suddenly turn and just swarm your home. Yeah.
So he's considering that. And I will tell you this too. He and his wife are very popular figures on the right. They were in Oklahoma City. They were Oklahoma City a while back, guest speakers at a church.
Yeah.
So
that church should have its tax exempt status revoked.
Well, we could do a whole episode on tax exempt status because there's a whole lot of churches that should be considered for that kind of revocation,
right?
Because they're not acting as nonprofit charities; they're acting as political institutions,
right?
So, so you've got those two high-profile folks. You've got there's a libertarian who's already declared as well, which is interesting. There's the current Attorney General of the state of Missouri, who was preceded by Josh Hawley, Eric Schmidt, has declared that he's going to run. So it could turn into a pretty big what show.
Right.
The governor right now says he won't run. The Secretary of State, who's John Ashcroft's son, the former U.S. Attorney General and U.S. Senator Jay Ashcroft, has declined to run.
Right.
Let me go through this real quick because Mr. Greitens has actually listed off some endorsements that he's received. You want to hear some of his endorsements so far?
Yeah.
He's been endorsed by Ryan Zinke, the former
Oh,
U.S.
yeah.
Secretary of
The guy who
Interior.
tried to trash all our national parks by putting food trucks in every one of them.
He's endorsed him. The former deputy assistant to the president as well, Dr. Sebastian Gorka.
Right.
And I'll say doctor in quotes because I'm not sure where that degree came from.
Right.
Mr. Greitens has also been endorsed by the 107th mayor of New York City, Rudolph Giuliani.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Ethics himself.
And Mr. Family Values, too.
Right.
Probably a mutual admiration society between the two there. Here's a couple of other, let's see. Well, one other person of note who has endorsed him is Joseph Joe DeGeneva, former attorney to Donald Trump and Fox News commentator. Right. On the Democrat side, so far there's a gentleman by the name of Lucas. I believe it's Kuntz, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, Kunce. He's a former Marine officer, was a vet in Iraq and Afghanistan. He is National Security Director at the American Economic Liberties Project. Tim Shepard has declared he's a tech executive, and then Scott Sifton, former state senator in the 1st District and former member of the House as well. Mayor of Kansas City's talked about running. Former Governor Jay Nixon's talked about running. So far, Cori Bush and Jason Kander and Claire McCaskill have all declined, said they're not interested.
Right.
But I wouldn't mind seeing McCaskill get back in.
So let me tell you a little bit about Missouri that I've discovered, and I'll tell you what I think the Democrats should do if they want to win this race, which they're not going to win with any of those people that you just mentioned. So 270 to win .com is a great website if you like to follow presidential and congressional politics. So it's basically a roadmap, allows you to follow races, that kind of stuff. They have a lot of great tools. One of them tells you how states have voted since 2000. So Missouri is one of 20 states that have voted Republican every single presidential election since 2000. Now there are 16 states that have voted Democrat every single presidential election since 2000. So really there's only 12 states that are deciding the presidency. So that's what that says. Now, here's who I think the Democrats ought to go with on bended knee, hat in hand, whatever cliche you want to use. This is the person I think they ought to get. So this person's a baseball player. He's a 13 consecutive season Golden Glove shortstop, 15-time All-Star, has 2,460 hits and 580 stolen bases. He also won the NL Silver Slugger Award, and he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's known as the Wizard to baseball fans. He's a god to anybody that follows St. Louis baseball. Osborne Earl Ozzie Smith. He's a black man, great personality, knows his way around the media. He's 5 years older than me. That puts him at 64 years old. I think they would be a shoo-in if they got Ozzie Smith to run for that seat.
Any indication that he would do it, or are you just pipe dreaming here?
I'm just pipe dreaming. Listen, if the Democrats want to take back the Senate, they can't allow candidates to just willy-nilly jump into a race. If they do, they need to vet those candidates, and they need to either say you're in or you're out, and you're the guy we're backing, right? Or they need to go to people like Ozzie Smith, which they've done in the past, and they need to say, hey, our party needs you. The Black Lives Matter movement needs you. We need your voice on the national stage like it was when you were playing baseball. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, I won't disagree. Ozzie Smith is Definitely popular in Missouri. Well, Kansas City might not be as popular,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I think high profile candidates like that are great. I think the only issue you run into is like you said, I mean, how much interest does a 64-year-old man have about at this point in his life getting political?
Well, I'm 59 and a half, and I'd get political.
Well, you're not a public figure though that can make appearance fees and things like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So,
Not yet,
but I mean,
anyway.
I think that would be great. I was gonna pick a St. Louis or a Kansas City chief maybe, or
Right.
somebody like that.
Like Andy Reid.
Yeah, probably not Andy Reid. You could go for a St. Louis Cardinal football player like Dan Deerdorf.
Yeah, but nobody liked the Cardinals. That's why they're out in LA now.
Yeah, I know. Brett Hall from the St. Louis
For the
Blues.
Blues. Yeah, he could do it. Hockey's pretty popular, but baseball is like football in Texas. It's like the Dallas Cowboys to St. Louis.
Oh, I
Baseball
understand.
is the thing.
They're they as much as it pains me to say it, they're like the Yankees of the National League because they've won so many World Series championships. So anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think you're right. I think if they can't get a high profile candidate, they're gonna struggle in Missouri. Democrats are, but they need to clear the field as soon as they can and rally behind one person so that one person can get the notoriety that they need.
Yep, I agree.
All right.
So moving on, heading to our next topic.
As I like to say, the check's in the mail, but you don't have to. You can't count on when it's going to get there now.
Right, maybe next month.
Yeah. Tell us what's happening with the post office.
Well, during the election, the hierarchy basically colluded to slow down the mail system, and they've kept it going since the election. People are complaining that they don't get their mail till they used to complain they don't get their mail till 8:00 at night. Now they might not get their mail for a week or two. My mother-in-law mailed a package to my wife, and 3 weeks later she was tracking it. She was smart enough to get the tracking on it. It was out in California, and it was bopping around.
Wait a minute, G-Man. None of that was political. None of those changes were political because the current postal is he commissioner? Is that what he's called? Or
Postmaster General.
Postmaster General. He has tons of experience in the postal business, right?
He has none.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
And he's being held. His name is Louis DeJoy. Trump put him in there because it has long been Republicans' dream to do away with the post office, to privatize it. And it's difficult for them to do because the post office is written into the Constitution. So in order to change or do away with the post office, you're going to have to have a you're going to have a constitutional amendment. Well, one way to get a constitutional amendment passed is to get everybody fed up with how the post office operates. Everybody gets fed up. They'll lobby their legislature to vote for the constitutional amendment. We'll do away with the post office and we'll turn it over to FedEx or UPS or Amazon or
Trump
Microsoft, Trump, yeah, whoever. Trump mail, right. But that's the Republicans' goal. And so Trump put Louis DeJoy, who has no postal experience, in, and he has enacted all of these slowdown measures. He's stopped mandatory overtime. He's eliminated overtime. He has basically told postal carriers to leave mail in their boxes. Now, these are the boxes. So what happens is you send a letter to me, it goes to a post office, then it goes to a sorting area, then it gets shipped to you live in Oklahoma, so it gets shipped to a bulk mail facility in Oklahoma, where it then gets sorted out to the various post offices. And at the various post offices, then my letter gets put into a mailbox for your mail carrier to pick up and deliver, right? Used to, that took about 3 days. Now the average time is 9 to 11. all because of Louis DeJoy. The Democrats can't get rid of him, even though they're all clamoring for it, because the Postal Service is governed by a 5-member board. It currently has 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And so you would think that, well, okay, you could just get rid of one of the Republicans and put in a Democrat, and you'd have 3 votes to 2. But the 2 Democrats are in lockstep with the 3 Republicans. They love DeJoy for whatever reason only they know. There's been rumors that they're getting paid off. Don't know how real those are, but something just happened that may be a game changer. President Biden nominated 3 people to the postal board, 2 Democrats and an independent. They all have postal experience.
Now, why were those seats open?
They're not open.
So he can replace members of the board.
He can replace members of the board, but they before he can fire them, his strategy is, let's get these people confirmed, then I'll go fire whoever I want, put these 3 in. I'll have 3 full seats on the board. The thought is that he's going to fire the 3 Republicans and then tell the other 2 Democrats, get on board or you're going to be gone too. So it's a pretty good strategy. It looks like these 3 Democrats are going to sail through their Senate confirmation hearings. They all have postal experience. One worked with the Postal Union, which is the largest union in the country. The independent worked with the largest advocacy group for the post office. So it looks like things might be changing. One of the things DeJoy did as well was he pulled about 30%, maybe even higher, of the post boxes that you would used to see out on street corners, out by the 7-Elevens, where you could, you're at a 7-Eleven, you got a, that's down the street from you, you got a letter to mail or box to drop off. You just drop it in the box and you're good to go. So at least 30% of those are gone, making it, again, more difficult to send a letter, which is just another nail in the coffin that the Republicans want to see the post office jump into.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we shall see. Hopefully there's changes for that because, one of the bills that the Democrats have floated before, Bernie Sanders pushed for it, I know Elizabeth Warren pushed for it too, was to actually expand the services that the post office offers, turning them into actual credit unions,
right?
Banks, to give people more access to banking services and more of a reason for them to have, to be able to turn a profit. They passed a law a few years ago too, that requires the Postal Service to pre-fund their benefits, their retirement programs and things like that.
For 50 years. That's why they're insolvent.
That's why
they're not making money.
Yeah, they're hamstrung by that.
Yeah,
so
they got a lot of money in the bank. They just can't touch it because a Republican Congress, in its effort to kill it, mandated that they fund not only their current employees, but any employees they anticipate hiring for the next 50 years. So, and then 50 years beyond that. So they have to take any employees that they currently have, which is a ton. They have to fund their retirement for 50 years. They have to anticipate what the workforce is going to be 50 years from now, and then fund those non-existent employees that aren't going to be there for 50 more years, probably not even born yet. They have to fund their retirement for the next 50 years. It's insanity at the highest level.
Well, it's just designed to hamstring them and give the Republicans a talking point to say it's going bankrupt, just like Social Security is going bankrupt.
And like Joseph Goebbels taught us, you repeat the lie long enough, it becomes the truth. So you keep telling people Postal Service is broke. We don't have enough money to deliver your mail. So, oh my God, what are we going to do? People start believing it because of jerks like Louis DeJoy.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Thanks for letting me get that off.
I'm glad you did. You feel better?
I do. Yes, I do.
All right. Well, let's talk about, two of the higher profile members of the House of Representatives. And before we get too deep into this, I just want to say you know this about me. If you really want to rankle my feathers, a good way to do that is talking false equivalencies. And it's one of the big problems I have with Joe Scarborough and his show, which I watch almost every morning because I do think it's entertaining. I like Mika. I like Mike Barnacle. I like Willie Geist. I like a lot of the commentators that they have on there. I like Joe a lot of times, but Joe is one of the kings of false equivalencies. Both sides do it. And both sides are just as bad. And one of the big false equivalencies that's been driving me nuts for the last probably 3 or 4 months is when people try to compare Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York and say, oh, she's the AOC of the right. And I'm going, this is not even close.
There's one big difference.
Education.
One of them has committee assignments and the other one doesn't.
True. But I mean, if you listen to AOC went to Boston University. She's well thought out in her ideas. Some people don't agree with some of her ideas, but she can really articulate what her plans are. And she knows how she's going to pay for her plans. You never accuse her of being unprepared. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the she doesn't know.
She's a redneck.
She doesn't know the top. I think that's an insult to rednecks almost.
Right.
But she doesn't know the issues. She runs on talking points. It's just to me, it drives me crazy. Okay, there's my rant for the day. So let's stop comparing those two. But they are related on this topic because Marjorie Taylor Greene did run into AOC on the floor of the House a couple days ago and said that she had challenged AOC to have a debate over the Green New Deal because AOC did reintroduce that bill along with Ed Markey, the co-sponsor.
Yep.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene said she challenged AOC to debate it. She thinks AOC is going to debate it with her. But then she owned herself by saying in the tweet, Marjorie Taylor Greene did, as soon as I can finish reading all 14 pages of it.
Right. Like 14 pages is a burden for somebody to read. Well, if you don't know how to read, hey, it could be a burden.
I mean, especially
if you're reading at the second grade level.
If it doesn't have pictures.
Right.
Please don't insult second graders.
Right. Now, there's one thing about Marjorie Taylor Greene that we should point out. She's prolific at raising money. Now, she's got $2 million in the bank already for her 2022 run, and there's every indication she's going to win in a landslide. So I don't think we've heard the last of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And if Republicans take back the House, like Kevin McCarthy says they're going to do, then she will have her pick of committee assignments, and she'll be crowing about each and every one, I'm sure.
Oh, I don't doubt for one bit that we're not finished with her yet, but I think it's to the Republicans' own demise if they don't try to get rid of her, but they don't have the power.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me say this about the Green New Deal. You may not agree with it, but it will be good for America, and here's why. Here's some things you might not know. There's a reason they call them fossil fuels, is because they're made out of fossils, mostly dinosaurs, and we're really mostly talking about oil. There are, and you can look this up on the internet if you want, there's plenty of scientific papers and institutes that have researched this, and they all agree of the proven reserves of oil, and by that means we know for sure that there's oil there, and we know for sure how much, right? So if we wanted to, we could go right now, drill and suck it out of the ground. Of the proven reserves, there's only enough oil to last another 50 years. Now think about that. In 50 years, we're going to run out of oil unless they somehow discover some big new, pocket of oil that we can tap into that'll keep us going for the next 100 years. So without that, we're going to run out of oil. And if you don't think that's a big deal, you think, well, we've got electric cars, right? Well, oil does a lot of things beside run your car. They make plastics out of it. They make all sorts of stuff out of oil. There's all sorts of different fuels. There's diesel that comes out of oil, kerosene. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, right? So oil is a big deal. We need to be right now. We should have started this 30 years ago, but right now we need to be pushing electric cars, which the Biden administration is doing. This new infrastructure plan contains rebates for consumers to go buy electric vehicles. And there's some great electric vehicles coming out. Tesla's got an electric vehicle that'll go 450 miles on a charge. Mazda's coming out with a vehicle. It's already out in Europe that they say will go 500 miles on a charge. Who's got the big truck? Hummer. Hummer's got a new vehicle coming out that's all electric that's sold out in 38 minutes. So consumers are wanting to buy electric vehicles, and that's a good start. So the Green New Deal will definitely help America.
Well, now wait a minute. You're talking about infrastructure, G-man, and electric cars. That's not roads and bridges.
Right, but there's more than just roads and bridges to our infrastructure. Our infrastructure includes the information superhighway, which everybody knows is the internet, that still is not available in all parts of America. So one of the things that struck me when I went on my honeymoon 17 years ago, I went to Costa Rica, a third world country, and every place we went to, even these little towns that had, less than 200 people in them, they all had internet service and they all had internet cafes that you could go into. The whole country was wired for the internet. Well, if they can do it in Costa Rica, why can't we do it in America? Why do we have school children that now, because of the pandemic, can't be taught because they can't go online and get their lessons because they don't have the internet? They got a computer, they don't have the internet. That's a tragedy.
And we're getting off on infrastructure here, but I didn't mean to get us there. But I think you made some great points about the Green New Deal. And I think the thing people need to remember is infrastructure, when you think about it, and Republicans want to have a real 1950s Eisenhower kind of view of infrastructure, although they would consider him a socialist, but today. But they want to say, well, it's just roads, bridges, and ports. That's infrastructure. But the original intent of having an interstate system, people forget, it was called interstate commerce, right? Yep. It was designed to put a structure in place that the federal government funded so that we could transport goods and services, so that people could travel for work, for vacations, and we had a reliable transportation system to get people around. Well, electric cars are going to be key for people getting around. It's going to be key for, imagine if we can get shipping costs down on things when we can transport them via electric vehicles. Right. Imagine, you just mentioned the internet. How much commerce is conducted over the internet now? How many people are making their purchases? How many school kids, as you mentioned, are taking courses that way, staying home because of the pandemic? But how much more could that open up rural communities to college courses that they couldn't normally get because they would have to travel really far away? Or I'm sure you experienced this when you were in college. I did. I know, where I needed a certain class to graduate and it was only offered one time. Or one semester, and I'd missed it. It was the previous semester. Now with the internet, you have the ability to take classes like that anywhere, anytime. And so it's the keys, the Green New Deal and the infrastructure bill are structured to allow us to be able to grow our economy and grow as a country. And I think President Biden's been really smart so far, because he's put the gauntlet down and said, you want bipartisanship? Fine, but make a proposal.
Right. Well, they did today. They unveiled their infrastructure bill, which is Biden's infrastructure bill is about $2 trillion. And that seems like a lot of money. But here's the thing, folks. All of the groups that follow these things, that basically, stay on top of it day to day, they say right now in the US, there's a minimum of $4 trillion worth of infrastructure projects that is vitally needed to get done. So, Biden's just getting half of that, but the Republicans unveiled their plan. And now, now that Trump's gone, they're all fiscally conservative again, even though Trump quadrupled the deficit. But Their plan is only 600 billion, and it's all roads and bridges.
Yeah, and if if you want to question whether we need infrastructure money, go Google most dangerous bridges in your area and see what comes up, and you'll be surprised how many of them you drive across.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked about this on a previous podcast, but a few years back here, that we have it's a freeway. It's 2 lanes on each side. Some parts are 3 on each side, but it's a freeway, and it goes. It's called 6th Avenue because inside Denver it becomes a regular street. But 6th Avenue and Interstate 70 cross, and there was a family driving a van. They were going under Interstate 70. One of the abutments, I think you call them, but it's the big concrete piece that goes across that helps hold the bridge up. It had deteriorated around the strut that holds it up, and just as this family of 4 went under, it collapsed, came crashing down onto this van, and killed all 4 of them.
Right.
And that's just one of the many examples of things that are going on, that need to be addressed, and that will be addressed in this if Biden's bill gets passed.
We were driving about 4 or 5 years ago. We were driving in Northwest Oklahoma City at Northwest Expressway and May Avenue. We were on May Avenue,
Right.
and about a half a mile in front of us, a bridge collapsed.
Wow.
And over Northwest Expressway, one side of it just went down, and so we started getting subverted. All the traffic started exiting, and we were like, "What's going on?" And we looked, and that bridge had collapsed. It's well needed. So that's bringing us to our last topic. Speaking of collapses and epic collapses, it's a great segue there. We didn't even plan that one in the pregame tailgate.
Right.
But let's talk about your favorite pillow guy, Mr. Mike Lindell. Tell us about what's happening with his social media app that he's got now.
Right. So he's got a social media platform called Frank. Its official site is frankspeech.com because there's another site called Frank, and they threatened to sue him. So he had to tweak it a little bit. And supposedly this thing is supposed to be a combination of Facebook and YouTube, where you can, and Twitter, where you can go on and make comments, and people can share it with their friends and all that kind of good stuff. It was supposed to be the right-wing version of those sites because people like Lindell and Trump, with their insightful rhetoric, have been kicked off of places like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And so they wanted their own platform. So it launched a couple days ago, and there's some pretty funny things about it. So it immediately crashed, and it crashed. There's a few reasons people in the web game know. There's a few reasons why your site crashes. One, if you're being hacked, it's called the denial of service attack. That'll cause your site to crash. If too many of your subscribers jump on at the same time and you don't have mirror sites, that'll cause your site to crash. Or if you just got bad code, the site's not really developed well, that'll cause your site to crash. And by all appearances, that is what caused Mr. Lindell's site to crash. And in true Donald Trumpian fashion, he came out and said it was a smashing success.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few video clips of the of Mr. Lindell taking. Apparently, he's trying to take live calls like a call-in show, and he's telling people that that he's going to reveal all the evidence of the voter fraud of the big lie.
Oh, yeah.
There is no evidence, and he's not revealed anything. He got pranked the other night. Somebody was acting like they were Donald Trump, and he put them on the air, and then they started cursing, and he hung up real quick. And I had, after I picked myself up off the floor from laughing so hard, I had to. I saw that he was complaining that this is what they do. They try to take us down by attacking us, and I saw that his products have been removed from Costco now, and so I don't know if there's a major store carrying his pillow products anymore.
Yeah, I think Costco was the last one. Walmart may still carry it.
But at some point, is he publicly traded? Do you know?
I can check.
But at some point, I would think even if he's not publicly traded, the private equity holders have got to say, enough is enough, dude. You got to say either you got to calm down or we're going to have to Papa John you.
It is not. It's a private company.
But there's got to be some investors somewhere where they're going to be saying, like I said, either you're gonna pipe down or we're going to Papa John you right out of here.
Well, once people stop buying his pillows, which somebody else will step up and fill that void for Costco and Target and wherever else they were going to buy that, and so when he only has his website as the avenue to sell his stuff, the market for him will drop and he'll be out of business and he'll go away and he'll go retire to Florida and spend his money down there, and we hopefully won't hear from him again.
I agree.
So he's just one of these guys that believes every conspiracy theory. He keeps talking about how Trump is going to be back in office by August because he's got all this evidence that he's taken straight to the Supreme Court. Well, I got news for you, guy. Before you start spouting off, you might want to just have somebody tell you or do a little research on your own about how the Supreme Court system, the judicial system in this country really works. And no matter who you are, no matter who your friend is, no matter how many presidents or ex-presidents you have in your back pocket, the Supreme Court doesn't work like that. You can't just fast track it. They control the narrative. If they want to fast track it, they can. But so far, there's been no indication that they would. And there's been no indication that you have any evidence to unveil. So show us the evidence, and then we'll think about taking you seriously.
Yeah, and kind of goes back to when the original Trump conspiracy theory came out, when he was trying to be involved with the birther movement, and so offensive, the stuff that they said about President Obama. But it reminded me of one of my friends said, if there was evidence of this existing, don't you think it would have come out in the primary election when he was running in 2008? It's the same thing. If they had evidence and if it was clear as day, they would have presented that stuff back in December.
Well, Trump ran on, I've got evidence that Obama committed crimes and Hillary committed crimes. You're going to lock her up. Remember that chant?
Yeah.
Then he got elected. He was in there for 4 years. Hey, how's that case against Hillary coming?
Yeah. Also, he was also going to release his taxes too.
Right.
Still haven't seen those. He was going to release his health care plan that was way better than Obamacare. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
One promise after the next.
Hang on one second. I want to check on something.
You're getting to see some live fact checking on the air, folks.
Okay. So here's a fact, right? If you get audited by the IRS, they usually start within a year after you file the return. Okay. They usually wrap up within 3 to 6. Now, what do you think that is? Weeks, days, months, years, decades, what?
I would say months.
3 to 6 months, the average audit wraps up. Okay.
Well, and it typically depends on the individual more than anything.
Right. So let's say you got a big, huge tax return, which you would assume Trump does since he's got a lot of properties and stuff. And supposedly he's a billionaire and has all these tax dodges and stuff. You can envision that might take 3 years, maybe? That'd be a long tax return, right? This started in 2015 when people started asking for his tax returns. He said he was being audited in 2015 and he would release his tax returns when the audit was concluded, right? It is 2021. 6 years later, we still don't. We do know what his taxes are like because his niece sued him. As part of the suit, she got the tax returns in discovery and turned them over to the New York Times. So we have seen
Well,
his tax returns.
And there is no law anywhere that says you cannot release your tax returns while you're under audit.
Yeah, absolutely.
The IRS can't release your tax returns, but you
Right.
can.
Yep. There's also no law that says you have to release your tax returns if you're going to run for the presidency.
Right.
Now, if I'm running for Senate or House seat, I'm not sure I'd want to release my tax returns. I'm not sure I wouldn't, right? I just haven't really given much thought. But I have given thought to this. If you're running for the highest office in the land, we ought to know as much about you as we can find out. I want to know where all the bodies are buried, all the skeletons in your closet, all that kind of stuff. And that includes, I want to know your taxes.
Well, and in Mr. Trump's case, somebody that's in real estate and as overly leveraged as he is,
right?
It would have been good for us to know as the American people who he owed money to.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, it's about time for me to go and get on Frank.
Right.
Oh, wait, it's not up.
I want to go check it, see if they got it back up yet.
You know, I did find it interesting that they called it a free speech platform, and then they outlined certain words you couldn't say.
Oh, so here's the status of Frank. And you're right, they bill it the voice of free speech. Thank you for being a part of Frank, exclamation mark. With over 200 million streams in just 2 days. I don't know who saw those, but nobody I know. Frank's speech so far has been an epic success. Right now, we're working on new features. Keep checking back. In the meantime, help save our country and share absolute interference everywhere. That's it. They got a little video, but it's about absolute interference.
Was this named after Franklin Graham?
I don't know, probably. There's another right-wing idiot.
All right, everybody. Take care. Be safe. Be sure to wear a mask, social distance, get the vaccine when it's your turn.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get my second shot here next week. So it's not over yet. Keep wearing those masks if you can, double mask. These new variants are pretty severe. We still have people dying every day from COVID. My dentist was telling me that his sister-in-law who lives in Alaska, her husband's a musher, participates in the Iditarod every year. They were convinced COVID was just made up. Well, guess what? The wife, who's 32 years old, contracted COVID. She was supposed to fly down to Denver for her birthday. She had to cancel the trip. She's in the hospital. She's actually taken a turn for the worse. And she is at 32 years old now, fighting for her life because of COVID. So don't believe the hype. This is real. It can kill you. It will kill you if you don't take it seriously.
Well, one of the other big deniers, Ted Nugent, confirmed this week that he has contracted COVID now too. And he used to say it was a sham. People were sheep for wearing masks.
Right.
And it was a fake deal. And he's got it. So
right.
Doesn't seem so fake now.
Yeah. And you know what? The thing is, guys like Ted Nugent, they never apologize for being wrong. They never come out and say, oh, I was wrong. They always come out and say, hey, I've been contracted with COVID. Please, I'd appreciate your thoughts and prayers. Right? Instead of saying, I'm a big idiot. I believe the hype that Trump said, and he was wrong. And I'm sorry I led anybody astray. That's what he ought to be saying.
Yeah,
and then he should say, please send your thoughts and prayers for my recovery.
And he should be saying, everybody out there that's a Ted Nugent fan should get the vaccine.
Absolutely. So anyway, great show, D.
Yeah. Take care, man.
All right. See you next time, folks.